Hello and welcome again to Let's Play EVE Online. We're going to be going over ships, items, pods, and the general pew-pew mining, harvesting, and transporting of items today. Okay, so to start off with, we're going to pretty much just be in inventory today. Now, as it stands, this is the ship I'm in. This is the ship hangar, which has all of my ships in it. This is the item hangar, which has all of my items in it. Now, the current ship is green, and it's what I'm flying. So if you look at this guy right here, that's what I'm flying. Now, let's start out with a brief introduction of, so let's go to market. Get me to minimize. Okay, so ships. Let's go ahead and start with frigates, which are your basic ship that you're gonna start flying when you get out of your noob ship. Standard frigates, faction and advanced frigates will be later on. They're more expensive. They require more standings, or not more standings, but more skills. So standard frigates. Let's go and close Ammar. Ammar is a armor and laser race. They shoot lasers, missiles sometimes, and they use drones sometimes. Now I'll go over those three in a second. Their main defensive mechanism is armor plating and armor repair. Caldari is missiles, hybrid guns, and some drones. Normally they use missiles. They use hybrid guns a little bit and drones a little bit. Their main defensive type is shields. So they have shield resistances and shield boosters. So, imagine Star Trek, more power to forward shield, Scotty. Alright, Glinty. Alright, Glinty does armor. And they do hybrid guns and drones. And they do, I think, a little missiles. But anyways, hybrid guns and drones. And their main defensive type is armor. So again, they're like Ammar a little bit. They use hybrid guns and drones instead of lasers, missiles, and drones. Their main offensive form is hybrid guns and drones. They're pretty even, actually. And Mimitar is the last. Imagine a mix between armor and shields. Now, you never mix a ship's defensive measures because you just gimp it one way or the other. You want to have all your eggs in one basket, pretty much. You want either shields or armor. And sometimes you don't do a tank at all because you're built for speed, which is a speed tank, and I'll go over that later. It's not necessarily the most efficient because if someone stops you, then you're pretty much dead. Anyway, so Mimitar does shields and armor as defensive. Depending on the ship type, it tells you which one has better, shields or armor, pretty much by which one's got more of either one. And then they use projectile guns, which think artillery cannons. They use some missiles and they use some drones. Now, the lower level ships normally don't have as many drones as higher level ships. So, like, say a frigate will have maybe one, maybe two drones. Unless it's maybe a special Glinty frigate, which will have more. Whereas, like, say, battleships will normally have a lot of drones. They'll have the capability of having up to 5 drones out. Now, not all of them will have that, and there are different degrees of sizes of drones, which determine how many you can put out. But normally, the bigger the ship, the more drones you can have. And ship classifications go... Let's go ahead and close this to show you. They go shuttle, which is small, has no offensive capabilities, basically just for transporting yourself from one system to the other faster than if you're in your pod. Then you have frigates, which are the, well, actually you have your noob ship in between shuttle and frigate, but no one really classifies that because no one buys or sells them. But you have frigates then, and those are your basic starter ships. Which then can later on be modified. Well, actually, companies modify them, NPC companies, and they release different types of ships for, like, say, faction or Tech 2 ships. That'll be gone into later. Then you have destroyers, which are kind of built around the idea of killing frigates. Not necessarily, though. Destroyers, and you have cruisers, which are a little bit bigger. They're a little bit bigger than frigates and destroyers. And then you have battle cruisers, which are the next step up from cruisers, and they normally are a little bit bigger than the cruiser. And then you have battleships that are the next step up from battle cruisers, which are normally your largest ship that you will fly on a day-to-day basis. They're the kind of end-all be-all. They're the big, duke it out ships. Now, there are bigger ships, but normally most people won't fly them on a day-to-day basis. You then have capital ships. Imagine, Star Wars and that kind of stuff, and the big fights that you see in, for Tatooine or whatever. You have freighters, which hold just things. They're non-offensive. You have dreadnoughts, which all they are offensive. They're, they're just giant ships. Like, one of those little dots would be the size of your capsule. So anyways, they're just huge ships, and they're just there just to beat the crap out of each other and play their own stations. You also have carriers, which carry larger amounts of drones than anything else will ever touch. They're basically a drone ship that also is a healing ship. Think of a support ship that has offensive capabilities purely in drones. They can't use offensive guns or missiles, but they can transfer shields to someone who's taking shield damage or armor damage or whatever, and they can send their fighters and their drones at you. Now, fighters are bigger forms of drones. Anyways, so then at the end of it, you have Titans. Also, jump freighters are a bigger version of freighters, and anyways. You have Titans, which are just huge behemoths, and they're the end-all be-all of EVE Online ships. That's just it. So anyways, closing that guy out. You also have capital industrial ships, which are the capital ship versions of mining. So there you go. Also, industrial ships. You have transport ships, which are the hauling ships, and then you also have mining barges, which are miners. So if you want to mine, you can mine with mining barges. You can also mine with basic ships, but it's not as efficient as mining with a mining barge. So anyways, there you go. That's ships. Again, you're going to just have to look through that, look at what you want to do. Normally you stay in frigates for like a week or two, then you jump up to destroyers for a little bit, then you jump to cruisers for a couple months, then you jump to battle cruisers, and then you jump to battleships. Cruisers are pretty good medium for everything. If you want to be able to do something, you probably can do it in a cruiser, unless it just requires you to take more damage or do more damage. There's a lot of Tech 2 versions of cruisers, a lot of faction versions of cruisers, that just overall do everything in the broad spectrum of EVE that you would want, but not necessarily as well as, say, a battleship would.